Let's get bold. Texas A&M quarterback Conner Weigman is going to be in the Heisman race.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a little bit bold on a Thursday morning. I want to talk about some bold predictions for the 2024 season. I said I was doing this last week, and hey, we're here. We're doing it. Let's rock and roll. My number one bold prediction is that Texas A&M starting quarterback Conner Weigman is going to be in the Heisman race this season. Caveat here. I don't think he's going to win. I don't believe that he's going to be like a finalist, but I think that Conner Weigman is going to be a name that you're going to see floating around. Man, Conner Weigman's having a Heisman type of season. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. I talked about concerns with the wide receivers the other day. There's some concerns there. There's some stuff around, but when it comes to flat out Conner Weigman in the season I believe he's going to have, I think he can be in the Heisman race. I think he's that good of a player. I look at the schedule. I look at the coaching staff. I look at the players he's got around him. I think this Texas A&M offense is going to really flow. I think Coach Klein's going to do a really good job. I think you're going to see this offense take a really big step forward this season. And I think that when that happens, you're going to see Conner Weigman really benefit from that. I think that he's going to put up a lot of numbers. Listen, he was putting up massive numbers last year before he went down with his injury. Had he not gone down with that injury, would he have been in the Heisman race? I don't know about that, but I mean, he would have been in like an all SEC type of performer race. His numbers were incredible. His QBR was incredible. He goes down with the injury, and of course, the rest is history. So now, what does Conner Weigman have to do this season to be in the Heisman race? Well, he's not going to run like we saw Jaden Daniels do last year. It's going to be a mixture of his arm and his legs. Sure, I think it would help him if he had 4 or 5 touchdowns on the ground and 400 rushing yards or something. But he's going to win this thing with his arm. Let's just call a spade a spade. If Conner Weigman is going to win the Heisman Trophy, he's going to do it with his arm. That's just the reality here. So, how many yards is that? What does that look like? It's still to be seen. And is Texas A&M's offense going to be high-powered enough to produce a Heisman quarterback? I think so, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. I think that this offense is going to be in a really good spot. I think that Coach Klein knows what he's doing. I think that he's going to put together a solid offense that's going to really work. I do. I believe that. So looking at this, I mean, I think it's going to – let's see how many passing yards Jaden Daniels had last year. Had to be north of 3,000, right? Let's see. Because I think that Conner Weigman would need to have more passing yards than he did a year ago. He had 3,800 passing yards. That's really impressive. And then 1,134 yards on the ground. To be in the race, I think he would need to have north of 3,500 yards through the air, and I think he would need to have north of 1,000 yards. Because once again, I'm not saying Conner Weigman is going to win the Heisman Trophy. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he's going to be in the conversation. And I do believe that, 3,600 yards through the air, a low interception total, 4 or 5 interceptions, and 500 yards on the ground, maybe 5 or 6 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah, I think he's in the race. Not saying he's going to win it. I'm saying be in the race, and I do think that is possible. So that's my number one bold prediction. Hey, Conner Weigman could be in this Heisman race. Hope I got that across well. I'm not saying Conner Weigman will win the Heisman Trophy. I'm not saying he'll be a finalist, but I'm saying he could be a guy that it's week 11. You go, man, Could Conner Weigman have a chance to win the Heisman? That's kind of what I'm getting at. He's going to be one of those surprise. Look at the numbers for this kid. He's been special, and you kind of forget about it. I think it's been one of those types of seasons. So I want to make myself clear there. My number 2 bold prediction: Ruben Owens will rush for 1,000 yards. So, you look at this. Well, Jaden Daniels. So let's pull up LSU last year. Did they have? Let's see what their running game looked like. Can you sustain some talented running backs and a Heisman candidate quarterback? Well, the answer to that is kinda, because listen, Jaden Daniels was LSU's leading rusher last year. Diggs had 653 yards on the ground. Williams had 284. Kane had 181. So you had most of your rushing yards were coming from Jaden Daniels last year. Now, you can have a Heisman-esque season. Let's see. Let's go type in Bo Nix. Let's go see if Bo Nix was in what his running backs did last year, because I'm pretty sure he had a really solid running back. So last year for Oregon, Bo Nix had 4,500 yards, and he had a running back with 1,180 rushing yards. So the point from this is, and Bo Nix only had 234 rushing yards. So this is more of the season I'm talking about when I'm talking about Conner Weigman. So I think it would, I guess, to be in that race, it would take more like 4K and then a couple hundred on the ground, 200 on the ground, 600 from Nix on the ground. It would take something similar to that to have Conner Weigman in the conversation. I didn't realize, I thought that 3,800, that's an impressive year from Bo Nix. That's a tough year to not win the Heisman. But I think Ruben Owens, I think both of these bold takes so far can be true. I think that Conner Weigman can be in the Heisman race, and I think that Ruben Owens can have 1,000 yards. What the point I wanted to get across was, I don't think these have to contradict one another. I don't think it's, because Ruben Owens has 1,000 rushing yards, this Texas A&M's quarterback, Conner Weigman, can't be in the Heisman race. I don't think that's true. I think both can be true. I think if you see Conner Weigman with 4,200 passing yards or 4,000 passing yards and Ruben Owens with 1,100 rushing yards, it just means your offense is really good. And I think that's going to be reality here. So, yeah, I think Ruben Owens is going to have a really special season, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's going to be the guy. I think he's going to be the number 1 guy for this team. I've said that. I know some folks believe it's going to be Le'Veon Moss, and that wouldn't surprise me either. That very well could be the case. But I think that Ruben Owens is going to have a really good season. So, my third, I believe the defense is going to be top 10 in college football and top 3 in the SEC. Okay? This one, in all honesty, I think is the least bold of the 3 so far. Coach Elko's talked about this defense. I am in no way concerned about how good this defense is going to be. I think this defense is going to be phenomenal. I really do. I think this defense, and we're going to talk about sacks here in a little bit. I think this defense is going to be really special. I think that the mix of what you got up front, the mix of what you got in the front 7, and the secondary, I'm trying to spoil because I've got some bold takes that have to do with the secondary and something to do with the front 7. But yeah, I really do believe this defense can be a top 10 defense in college football. I think Coach Elko believes that. I think that it's a bold statement, but I don't think it's a crazy bold statement. I really do believe that Coach Elko thinks that can become a reality. I think that's how good this defense can be. I just really like this unit. As y'all know, I really like this unit. I like all 3 levels. I like the way they play. I like that you've got some older guys. I like that you've got some guys that have played in the SEC. I like that you've got a lot of returning production. You've got everything you need to have a dominant defense. And then on top of that, you've got an elite defensive mind in Coach Elko, and I think Coach Bateman's going to do a great job. So I really like what you got going on here in this defense. And yeah, I do believe this can be a top 10 defense in college football and a top 3 defense in the SEC without a shadow of doubt. I believe that this defense is going to be special. I've got a few more bold predictions, including how many football games the Aggies win this year and I think the Aggies are going to lead the SEC in a very important stat. We'll talk about both of those things coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. So, I'll tell you this. I love using FanDuel. I love how easy the app is to use. It is the best betting app to use. And it just makes watching a game more fun. There is nothing in the world that beats going to watch a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game with a little something extra on the line. It just makes it more fun. I promise you, you got to trust me on this. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So let's stay bold, ladies and gentlemen. The Aggies win 9 football games this season. It's another bold take of mine. Hear me out on this, okay? Listen. This football team has a lot going for them, okay? A lot going for them. I think that people, I know this is technically, yes, a bold take, but I also believe that the opinion on Texas A&M is that they're probably going to win 8 games this year. So my bold take is they're going to win one more game that I think most people believe they're going to win. I don't think that is out of this world bold by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's, yeah, sure, it's bold because, it's bold. It's a bold take, but I think it is very realistic. And once again, I always want to keep reiterating this point for those who are watching, maybe a fan of the team, maybe Texas A&M haters, whatever it is. You have got to remember that a lot of this has to do with the schedule. Your 4 toughest games are at home. Your road games are manageable. You got to go to Florida, Auburn, Mississippi State, South Carolina. You got a game against Arkansas on a neutral site. Your toughest games are all at home. That's just reality. All games I think you could and should win. So that is my reasoning. I say this a point often too. If Texas A&M had to play Bama and Georgia and Ole Miss, I wouldn't be sitting here saying this. My bold take has to do with I believe the schedule sets up for this football team to win 9 games. I believe that you've got the offense to do it. I believe you've got the defense to do it. I believe you've got the coaching staff to do it. You know, there were a lot of times last year, and can you say it cost Texas A&M football games? I mean, you could go back and maybe make that point, but I think Jimbo Fisher made some poor in-game decisions. And I think that you're going to see Coach Elko. I think he's going to be better at game management, the X's and O's when it comes to what's the right decision here, what's the right move here. I think you're going to see Coach Elko be better in that aspect than Coach Fisher was. So, yeah, I think Texas A&M wins 9 football games. I really do believe that. I know that's a bold take because I know that's a win above probably what most people would say. So it's bold. But I think really all it would take is winning 1 or 2 games you're not supposed to at home. And I think that that's very realistic in front of the 12th man. This incredible fan base is going to be there screaming, yelling in Kyle Field. Yeah, I think winning a couple big football games in front of them is very realistic, including College Game Day Week 1 against Notre Dame. It's very possible. So that is my first bold take here in segment 2. Okay, now this was another one we're getting a little really bold here. Okay, I think the secondary could end up being a strength of this team. Now, before someone says, "Well, Andrew, you're just being super positive," I want you to hear me out on this. I'm getting ready to talk about the offensive line, and I'm not going to say as nice of things as I am about the secondary. I believe that this secondary, I don't think that they're going to be elite. I don't think they're going to be elite, but I think they're going to be one of the better units of strength on this football team. If, are they going to be a top 10 secondary in college football? No, I'm not saying that. But I don't think they have to be. Once again, every football team has weaknesses. Every team in any sport ever has weaknesses. Just reality. And when I look at this, I say to myself, okay, if the secondary were heading into the season and it's considered a weakness for this Texas A&M team, which I think we can all agree on that. I think that going in, and it might not end up being that, but there are a lot of question marks, and those question marks stem from you got a lot of transfers. We don't know what you got. It was a struggle last year. Can it be better this year? And I think that is going to be a very interesting part of the season. But yeah, I think this unit can end up being really good. I do. I think that you went and got a lot of transfers that it's going to be hard to swing and miss that many times, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, honestly, it's like, I know that's not the craziest take in the world, but you got so many solid transfers. You're going to be able to, we know what you got in Bryce Anderson. You're going to be able to put together 2 or 3 guys on that field that can get the job done. That's just, I think that's just reality here. I think that this secondary is going to end up being a really solid unit on this team. And I think that that's going to be a big reason why the Aggies can win 9 games. If they aren't good, if this unit isn't good, it's going to hurt. I don't care how good your pass rush is, how good your linebackers are. If your secondary is bad, the quarterback is going to be able to find open receivers, even if it has to be quick. So that's my take on the secondary. I think it's going to be better than advertised. I think it's going to end up being a bright spot on this team. So here we go with the offensive line. Here's what I wrote down word for word. O-line gets job done. That's my bold take. So hear me out. Not saying this unit's going to be great. I still believe it's going to be one of the worst units on the team. But I think it's going to get the job done to help Ruben Owens get to 1,000 yards. Help Conner Weigman be in the Heisman conversation because he has a good year. I think it can be good enough to help this team win football games. I don't think it's going to win you any games. I don't think you're going to have an offensive line where you're going to go, okay, we're going to run the football 40 times. You go. You block. No one can stop it. It's an incredible wall. You can't stop us. It's not going to be that. But I think that they, as a unit, can be good enough to where you go, okay, they're getting the job done. You know what I mean? I'm not asking for excellence. I'm asking to get the job done. Give your quarterback a few seconds in the pocket. Give your running back some holes to run through. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for anything crazy, anything, out of this world absurd when asking for this unit to just get the job done. But I think they can do that. I don't think that they're going to be a strength of this team. I don't think they're going to be elite, but I think they can be good enough to help Texas A&M win 9 football games, good enough to help Ruben Owens rush for 1,000 yards, good enough for Conner Weigman to be in the Heisman conversation. That's my opinion on this offensive line. And if they aren't, I think the Aggies are in trouble. So you really need them to be. I think here's the deal. A lot of bold takes here that all will come crashing down if this offensive line doesn't do what I just said. So that's as simple as I can put it for the O-line. My last bold prediction. Nic Scourton leads the SEC in sacks individually, and the Aggies lead the SEC in sacks as well. So, once again, this isn't world beating. It's just doing the same thing you did last year. But you bring in a guy like Nic Scourton who can give you double-digit sacks. Now, Nic Scourton's going to be working at a bit of a disadvantage because he's going to be getting double-teamed. They're going to, heading into the game, the coaching staff's going to say, don't let this guy beat you. So, the key here is going to be, hey, the best receivers in the NFL, no, I'm going to get double-teamed some. Can I still get open? Nic Scourton needs to know people are going to help. They're going to chip me with the tight end. They're going to do a lot to keep me out of the backfield. Can I still get home? He's no longer going to be a surprise. He's going to be a legit dude. We know who he is. We know how good he is. Teams are going to know how good he is. Teams are going to know the type of player he is every single game. You've got to be ready for Nic Scourton. If you're not ready for Nic Scourton, it's just going to be hard to stop him. So, and then, I think the Aggies have enough firepower behind Nic Scourton that they can lead the SEC in sacks. I think that you're going to see some sacks from your linebackers, from Scooby Williams, of course, from Terran York. You got to replace a lot of sacks from Cooper. So you're going to need your linebackers to add some sacks, but I think that you're going to see Nic Scourton. I really do believe he gets double-digit sacks. So that is my bold prediction on this defensive line. I think it'll be one of the best units, or defensive lines will be one of the best defensive lines in the SEC and in college football, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that the Aggies end up leading the SEC in sacks, and so does Nic Scourton. And I know that's a bold take. I don't think it's crazy bold. I really don't. So those are my bold takes. Let me know your bold takes for the season in the YouTube comments. Want to hear them? Give me some bold takes in the YouTube comments. I would really appreciate to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Any you agree with on me, any you disagree with, any that you have that I didn't have, let me know in the YouTube comments. We're going to talk about the Aggies' upcoming series with the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's going to be an epic showdown. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Big one, ladies and gentlemen. Game one is scheduled for tonight. I saw that some weather concerns could potentially turn this into a Friday doubleheader or I'll update in the comments if anything like that happens. But so some weather could play a role. But as of right now, unless anything's changed, I haven't seen. It's still on pace to be played this evening. And Hagen Smith is a really good player. Okay. Hagen Smith, the ace for Arkansas, going to be a top 10 pick in the MLB draft. Watched him pitch live the other day. I'll tell you this. Dude's really good. Dude is really good. Now, I'm going to tell you how as a hitter I would attack him. We have a running joke in my house. My two best friends, Mike and Cameron, we have a joke where, when you watch you're watching golf, PGAs this weekend, you're watching golf and the dude misses a 7-footer and you go, oh man, what's this guy doing? I'd have made that putt. We have a joke in this house where if you say something like that, one of us will just say chips. Cause we're on the couch eating chips and they're out there on the PGA Tour or out there playing for Arkansas. That's our joke. So this is my chips, but I'm going to tell you how I would approach and have at against Hagen Smith. Watched him in person the other day. Incredible pitcher. And you got to remember, I have a baseball background. I played in college and I pitched. So I'm not considering claim that I could get a hit off Hagen Smith because I could not. But I tell you how I would approach it if I was Division I hitter. If I was Division I hitter, I would jump on an early heater. I think Hagen Smith knows how good he is. And I think at times as a pitcher, that can be a problem. I think that leads to you being lazy. I think it leads to you, okay, I'm a lefty. I throw 97, 98. I'm just going to throw one over the plate. They're not going to touch it. And I think that these Texas A&M hitters can touch it. These Texas A&M hitters can turn around on 98, even from the left side. It's not going to, that's just reality here. So my point is this. I think that you got to get your pitch early in the count and turn on it. If you let him get to slider, let him get to his off-speed pitches, you're in trouble because they're dominant. But if you can get one of those first couple pitches of the at-bat, get one of those first heaters, sit on it and drive it. He throws a lot of first pitch heaters. That's one thing I noticed. I didn't count the number, but it's a lot of first pitch heaters. He does mix in a first pitch slider here and there, but for the most part, he's a first pitch heater kind of guy. And when you know that, if he puts it right down Broadway, turn on it, hit it. When you're facing a guy like Hagen Smith, who's going to be an MLB pitcher here in a few years, as they say in the MLB, normally you get one hittable pitch every at-bat. That's probably going to be the case here. When you get your pitch, don't miss it. Don't sit slider. Don't do any of that. Sit dead red heat early in the count. Sit dead red heat. When you get it, drive it. If you miss it, you're in trouble. That's just reality here against a pitcher like this. He's that good. When you get to 1-2, 0-2, 2-2 counts, you're in a tough spot because you're going to be seeing that slider, and it is nasty. I mean, utterly nasty. You do not want to get to that slider. So, Hagen Smith, watch out for him. That's how I'd attack him. Pay attention to that. I think when you watch on TV too, you can see, man, you put that right down the middle. What are we doing? Let's turn on that. That's my opinion on Hagen Smith. And then just for this team, the Aggies are slumping. That's true. And this happens in baseball. Getting out of a slump sometimes simply takes a little bit of confidence. Confidence is a real thing. I think if this team can win a huge series over a really good Arkansas baseball team, it can give them that confidence they need heading into the postseason. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. The postseason's coming up. I'm not too concerned about being a top 8 seed, but I do believe that if you want to guarantee it, lock it down, no concerns in the world, win this series. You want the road to Omaha to run through College Station. You don't want to have to leave home to go to Omaha. So win this series and you guarantee that for yourself. So you got Ryan Prager going game 1. We got my favorite pitcher, TBD, going game 2. And then Shane Sado going game 3. Shane Sado shoved last weekend. Would love to see him shove again this week. And this is a series. If you lose to Hagen Smith, don't hang your hat. He is their ace. I think after that, there are some beatable arms, even for how good this Arkansas team is. So if you lose, if you beat Hagen Smith, you're going to win this series. If you lose to him, I still feel confident you can come back and win this thing. It's a huge series, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited. I know y'all are too. Can't wait to see how it pans out. But hey, you're slumping. You want to get out of it. You want to go to the College World Series, get out of the slump. Well, win this series, and you'll have all the confidence in the world heading into the postseason. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today, and we will see you on Friday.